In chapter 622, after Aizen unleashes an incantationless Hado number 90, Urahara straight up admits that he may well have gotten stronger during his 17 months of imprisonment within Muken. How is it that Aizen was able to get stronger despite being sealed away for that long? Fans have debated for years about how this was possible, and these comments from Urahara had immortalized Chair-sama as an instant meme, because despite it looking like an ordinary chair, it apparently provides better training for Aizen than the entire Gotei 13, the Vizards, and even Dangai Ichigo combined. And on top of this, Chair-sama appears to be the only being in existence that can hold down Aizen. Fans even joked about purchasing their own Chair-sama from IKEA because clearly this piece of furniture was the ultimate mentor. Now, jokes aside, after doing some extensive research, I figured out why it makes perfect sense that Aizen would have gotten stronger despite being sealed away. In this video, I'll delve into the mechanics of how Aizen's powers work, as the infinite void of Muken had created the perfect psychological and spiritual training environment, which Aizen was able to exploit to further grow his power and to become stronger than what he was during the Fate Karakura Town arc. And this is seen via the feats that he demonstrates during the 1000-year Blood War arc. When it comes to Muken, it isn't an ordinary prison. It's the 8th and final level of the Central Great Underground Prison. It was specifically designed for criminals who cannot be killed by the Gotei 13. This place exists in a completely isolated dimension from the outside world. It's described as a voided space which stretches infinitely into darkness. Under normal conditions, non-criminals are not permitted entrance, which tells you everything about how dangerous this place is considered to be. The restraints that hold down Aizen within Muken don't actually eliminate his spiritual pressure. Mayuri explicitly states that the seals only keep his Reiatsu close to his body, creating what's essentially a spiritual pressure cooker. Imagine having your immense power constantly pressing against containment. It's like a dam holding back an ocean. This strain would be incredible, but for someone like Sosuke Aizen, this becomes the ultimate form of resistance training. Aizen is held down with 19 seals, each requiring a specific key to unlock. Shunsui was only given permission by the Central 46 to use 3 keys when he went down to Muken to enlist Aizen's help. He had a key for Aizen's mouth, his left eye, and his ankles. And with just 1 seal removed, Aizen was able to project his Reiatsu powerfully enough to disintegrate a Kido core member's hands just by proximity. This alone demonstrates that with minimal unsealing, his power had grown to levels that surpassed his original containment calculations. It's like those seals were not just holding him back, they were forcing his spiritual pressure to find new ways to manifest and grow stronger under extreme limitation. There's a bit of a misconception with the defeat of Aizen, and it's that the Hogyoku had rejected him. Urahara theorized this after the defeat of Aizen, but Ichigo offered a completely different interpretation that makes way more sense when you understand the true nature of the Hogyoku. The device doesn't just grant random wishes, it is able to read the deepest desires of the hearts that are around it, and it materializes them into reality. Ichigo had felt loneliness emanating from Aizen's Zanpakuto during their battle, and this had suggested that deep down Aizen wanted to lose his transcendent power in order to become an ordinary Shinigami again. The Hogyoku granted this subconscious desire, but here's the crucial detail: it never actually separated from Aizen. The fusion remained intact at a fundamental level, which is why Aizen retained his immortality and why the Central 46 was unable to execute him. While he was imprisoned within Muken, his passive connection continued working. The Hogyoku previously granted powers to Orihime and Chad while it was sealed within the Gigai of Rukia. They had acquired these powers by simply being in proximity to her. If the Hogyoku could affect people just by being near them, imagine what 17 months of constant contact with a willing immortal host would accomplish. Aizen's conscious desire to grow stronger, combined with his subconscious need to prove his superiority, had created the perfect conditions for continuous evolution. The Hogyoku wasn't rejecting him anymore, it was slowly cooking him into something beyond his original transcendent forms. But this is without the monstrous physical transformations that had made him lose his identity during his battle with Ichigo. Now this is where Aizen's training does get pretty insane. When he had used Hado 90 on himself in an attempt to destroy Chair-sama, he made a telling observation. He stated that the chair must be made of the same material as the cross that he was bound to within Muken. This wasn't just a casual commentary, it was confirmation that he had been testing both objects repeatedly, probably for months with the Hado 90 spell. Imagine Aizen's training regimen. He fires his strongest Kido spells at himself and his restraints, and the Hogyoku instantly heals any damage, and his spiritual pressure adapts to handle increasingly powerful attacks. It's like having an infinite healing factor while doing the most extreme strength training imaginable. Every time he nukes himself with Kurohitsugi, his Reiatsu had to grow stronger in order to survive the attack. Every regeneration must have made his body more durable, and every failed escape attempt taught him new ways to manipulate his power. The beauty of this method of training is that it's completely internal. He doesn't need external opponents or training partners, he is both the attacker and the target. Aizen's Reiatsu learns to defend against his own techniques while simultaneously growing powerful enough to cast them without incantation. The chair that he sat on in the 1000-year Blood War arc and the cross that he is bound to within Muken are made from materials that are designed to restrain transcendent beings. These tools created by Mayuri have unwittingly become Aizen's training equipment. They could survive his attacks, which meant that he could go full power without destroying his environment. 17 months of this self-destructive training cycle would create growth that no normal training would be able to achieve. When Ichigo spent 3 months within the Dangai in isolation and he came out as a transcendent being capable of putting a stop to Aizen, the key to Ichigo's victory was the mental strength that he required to face his inner hollow and to achieve perfect unity with his Zanpakuto. Aizen had something even better. This is unlimited time and an already existing fusion with his Zanpakuto and the Hogyoku. A Shinigami can train in their inner world through Jinzen meditation as they communicate with their Zanpakuto spirit in order to unlock new levels of power. Ishin explains that this is a method used by the Shinigami to enter into their inner world, and I guess that the massive advantage which Aizen has is that he's already permanently fused with Kyoka Suigetsu, so instead of having to negotiate with a separate entity, he can engage in perfect self-reflection and spiritual exploration without having to battle his Zanpakuto spirit. Now consider what this means. It's 17 months of uninterrupted meditation with the most sophisticated illusion-based Zanpakuto in existence. He would be able to create entire mental training scenarios, fight perfect recreations of past opponents, or even explore theoretical battle situations with complete sensory immersion. Aizen's inner world would become an unlimited training simulator where he could refine his techniques, test new applications of his power, and even push his abilities beyond their previous limits. The isolation that was meant to be a punishment for Aizen would become the perfect environment for him to achieve new levels of mental and spiritual power. Now this is what nobody talks about in regards to Aizen's character development within Muken. He finally had to confront the core weakness that led to his defeat. This is his loneliness, which had stemmed from being too powerful and intelligent for anyone else to understand him. He had looked down on everyone because he genuinely couldn't relate to beings that he considered to be inferior. But Ichigo's victory forced him to acknowledge that his perspective was flawed. The Spirits Are Forever With You light novels mention that Aizen actually relished his defeat because it cleared up the disorder in his heart. 17 months of complete isolation gave Aizen his time to process this revelation properly. He wasn't just sitting there sulking in Muken, he was undergoing the most intensive psychological transformation in existence. Every moment that he had in solitude forced him to examine his motivations, his failures, and his fundamental understanding of the nature of power. Within Bleach, confronting your fears and internal conflicts is directly tied to power growth. We see this with Ichigo's power progression, his battles with his inner hollow, with Zaraki accepting his love for battle, Byakuya's decision to break the rules for his family. Personal breakthroughs translate to massive power increases. Aizen's breakthrough was accepting that true strength doesn't come from standing above others, but from understanding your place in the larger cosmic order. This psychological evolution in his mindset had unlocked power reserves that Aizen didn't even know had existed, because he was no longer fighting against his own nature. He achieved the calm, composed demeanor that we see in the 1000-Year Blood War arc because he finally had made peace with himself. And I think this is partly the reason why he was able to deliver that speech on courage at the end of the series. And that speech, you have to remember, was given 10 years following the defeat of Yhwach, which means that Aizen had spent another decade at this point in isolation. After Aizen was hit with Muken during the Fate Karakura Town arc, he was in the middle of evolving into his 6th Hogyoku fusion form. His Zanpakuto was disintegrating and he was bleeding profusely, but he was also transforming. The Hogyoku, in a final bid, was trying to grant his desperate desire not to lose to a human. Then Urahara's seal had activated and interrupted the entire process. 1000-Year Blood War Aizen represents the completion of that interrupted evolution, but it's been refined through 17 months of reflection and self-growth. Instead of the monstrous transformations that made him lose his identity, Aizen has achieved something more elegant now. It's a perfect fusion with his Zanpakuto while maintaining his human form. He can now manifest Kyoka Suigetsu at will without needing the physical blade, and he can use its complete hypnosis through pure Reiatsu manipulation, and he can even project illusions which can fool the almighty of Yhwach. This form that Aizen has is actually superior to his butterfly transformations because it maintains all the power while eliminating the weaknesses. He's not locked into a specific appearance or fighting style, and he's not driven by the Hogyoku's interpretation of his emotions. Aizen has achieved what he always wanted. This is transcendence without losing his essential self. The man who emerged from Muken had godlike power contained within a perfectly controlled human form, making him infinitely more dangerous than the rage-driven monster that had fought Ichigo. For you to get an idea of just how powerful 1000-Year Blood War Aizen was, let's go over what he was able to accomplish while still being partially restrained. First, he used his Reiatsu to casually obliterate dozens of Soul King power fragments that the entire remaining Gotei 13 were unable to handle. These weren't weak creatures, they represented the overflow from the most powerful being in existence after Yhwach had absorbed the Soul King, and Aizen swatted these black creatures away like flies. Secondly, Aizen was able to cast a full power incantationless Hado number 90 that tore open the Serites barrier, and it threatened to bring down the Soul King's palace itself. Even Urahara was shocked by the spell's potency. Thirdly, and this is the most impressive feat, he placed Yhwach under Kyoka Suigetsu's influence before any of his seals were removed, using only his Reiatsu's contact with Yhwach's power during their first meeting. This last point is critical because it demonstrates growth beyond his original Zanpakuto's limitations. Previously, Kyoka Suigetsu required witnesses to see the release of its Shikai, but now Aizen is able to induce complete hypnosis through spiritual pressure contact alone. While Mayuri tried to contain his power, he admitted that only stopping Aizen's heart could fully seal his Reiatsu, essentially admitting that their current methods were inadequate. The device designed to cap Aizen's spiritual pressure was already being overwhelmed, and Aizen wasn't even trying to escape at full power. This is the most insane thing of all. So yes, I do think that Muken has created the ultimate training environment for Aizen for all of the combination of factors that I've listed within this video. With the passive Hogyoku evolution taking place in his body, with the resistance training against the seals building his spiritual pressure to crazy levels, with the self-destructive Kido practice pushing his techniques beyond their limits, his mental training in his inner world refining his control and strategy, and most importantly, he is confronting his psychological flaws in his isolation, which has helped him to unlock power reserves that he didn't know existed. But yeah, we have reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What are your thoughts about how Aizen had gotten stronger within Muken? How was he able to demonstrate all of those insane feats during the 1000-Year Blood War arc? Do you agree with the theories that I proposed within this video? If there's anything that I've forgotten to mention, then let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this one, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.